Welcome to Aurelian's Fair, one and all. This is your host, Lucius Aurelian, and this is the live stream for the Restitutor Orbis channel, and our topic today is cathedrals. And we're going to stay focused on some definitive cathedrals, and we're also going to look at one of the cathedrals that really stands out, as there's some interesting stories. So let's see who we've got out there so far, and I will say hi to one and all. So what's our real story? Good to see you. Hey, Chassis, welcome. Lay Buchanan, welcome, if I'm pronouncing that correctly. OIC, how you doing? F in the chat. Adam Baum, good to see you, brother from Houston. M1, welcome. Slater Novak. Charlie A, welcome. Hey, Kathy, hope things are going well in Kentucky. Starseed Hologram, welcome. And September 26th. And right now, that's everybody I see so far. So I hope everybody's having a good week. It has been a very interesting week, I have to say, in the last week in the video world. So hey, New West Reset, good to see you. Hey, what is truth? Jimmy the Lip, welcome. Jesus Saves, Elbow. Oh, yeah, no doubt about it. Dave Dolak. Looks like we got some newcomers to the live stream. That's good to see. I know it tends to rotate. I try to keep these on Saturdays, and I intend to keep it that way. So we're going to look at some cathedrals today, and we're going to look at some of the, we'll just call them best of the land. And the whole reason behind that is these cathedrals, we're often looking for explanations in terms of what their origin story is and what do they really tell us about our research in the old world. Hey, Donna, welcome. And one of the reasons that we use them as a baseline in our research is that they are everywhere. So give me 1 second, and I'm going to get the first one we're looking at up and on the screen. And I have a feeling you will recognize it. And one moment here. Share screen. And let me know when you can see this. All right. Can everybody see this? This is without a doubt one of the most famous ones. Hey, Patricia, welcome. Okay, can everybody see this? All right, thanks, Kathy. And does anybody know which cathedral this is that we're looking at here? Yeah, no two are the same, and yet they have similar layouts. Hey, Oki, welcome. Come on, someone's got to know which one this is. We've all been doing this a little bit of time, haven't we? Ah, very good. Cologne. Or as they call it in Germany, let me see if I can pronounce this properly, Kölner Dom. The cathedral in Cologne, Germany. So a little background on this one. Good story with it. They built it in phases. The first phase was supposedly from 1248 to 1560. And then they finished it in 1842 to 1880. And then, of course, they've been doing the continuous restoration from the 1950s to now. It's exactly 144.5 meters or 474 feet long, 283 feet wide or 86.25 meters. The spire is 515 feet high or 157 meters high. Oh, and it has 11 bells. But believe it or not, it's not the tallest cathedral that we'll be looking at in this particular exploration. Yeah, built in a year. Yeah, you're right, Perfect Storm. She's a beauty. I had the pleasure of seeing it several years ago. And yep, that's a good one there. What's our real story? It does have a unique style of towers, and we could associate that with many different types of technology in terms of what's going on there. Now, the story behind it's quite interesting, and we'll consider that as we go and we look through the pictures. But really, the size of this one is what really stands out. So let's go to the next picture. Now, here's another angle of it, and this just gives you an idea of some of the layout and the complexities within it. Yeah, you could say that. Needs a power wash. You know, maybe they gave it a power wash back in the 19th century when they were working on it. But what really strikes me about this one is just some of the ornate detail that they put into it. And all these cathedrals have ornate detail. It's one of the things that really stands out about them. But you look at the tower and you question how old it really is, even though they tell us that they finished it in the 19th century. Yep, that's a good point. And that's the funny one. And that's the funny thing you say there, M1, is, yeah, they say they built this over centuries, but then it looks just like the other ones that they built in much less time or even fewer centuries. Yeah, that's a good one. And you're right. Cymatics everywhere, from the original function. And so what's it really boil down to? We're trying to do the search to find out what's the explanation behind these original cathedrals and what they were really telling us. Carbon credits in the wrong way, right? Here's another look at some of the buttresses here. And this is where I think you really see some of the detail in terms of what this could have been. Now, there's all kinds of theories about it. Oh, yeah. Yes, there were. Good call out. Absolutely. And when you see some of these, you see some of the details and some of the theories that go into what could have been their purpose. Were these power generation? Did these have some other purpose? And we're just looking at one set of buttresses here, and just consider the fact that, supposedly they worked on this for all that time, and yet they had this kind of consistency with it. It's very strange. It's all good, old world hamster wheel cranes. Don't worry, we got a picture that actually calls out your name, so that's all right. I won't send you to the back of the class, okay? But these are the kind of details that you see with a lot of these cathedrals that really send up a lot of different question marks. So, we might have to recount that story at some point in time. So, here's the interior, and maybe not the best picture. Hold on, I'm going to see if I can extend it just a little bit and let you see a little bit more there. There we go. Yeah, of course, we have our pews added. Possibly. Improve connectivity, or perhaps they were designed to channel something, whether we're talking about atmospheric power generation or some other theory for what their original intention could have been. Yeah, and that could be true. So, yeah. Well, the less said about that one, the better for right now. But I don't intend to just roll over and take that one laying down. So, hopefully, we'll get that one back up here in a few days on this platform, but we'll see. Yeah, exactly. And here you see the what looks to be the added pews, and I think it was Adam Baum who talked about how he liked that in one of the comments. So, hey, Jamie, good to see you. Welcome. So, as everybody's getting logged on, but the interior detail about this. Now, does anybody know what the official count says this cathedral's famous for? Why did they spend hundreds of years building this beautiful cathedral in Germany? What does it house? Yeah, 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 yeah. uh, And that's an interesting call out too, Chassis. Usually they do. You're absolutely right. I mean, in this particular picture, you see the detail appears to be more in the walls here, but yeah, the ceilings, you just see the classic arches. It's really more the size. So, ah, interesting. Yeah, it definitely gives that impression. Holy relics. Yeah, somebody might say that. Don't say that to the church. Welcome. Good to see you. Beyond Thunderdome, like the name. They state that the reason they built Cologne Cathedral was to house the remains of the three magi, or the original three wise men, if you go off of that story. So supposedly their actual bones are housed in a very beautiful crypt. We'll take a look at it. Naturally, it's covered in gold. You know what? And I think you might be onto something there, Songbird Collage Arts. They do look like they're plastered over. So, oh yeah. Yep. And you know what? I I think you were the one sending me all the pictures, and I wanted to say thank you for that too throughout the week. You've come across that conclusion that there is a lot of, how should we say, modification. They call it renovation on these buildings, but let's be honest, they're modifications that were going on. Ooh. Yeah, you're probably right, Jamie, and I dare not say that word, but yeah, I think you're right. There's probably something with that. So, and you can actually find those promulgated written down. I remember talking about it in many discussions back when I was still teaching about how they had those kind of laws stated, and they didn't make a lot of sense. So it's interesting as you look at this and you can see the statues going all the way down on the pillars or the columns, whatever you want to call them in this case, because they kind of look like both. The windows are also very intriguing in this particular one. So, Yeah, definitely creates more questions than it answers. Now, here's one of the early construction photos of it, supposedly from the 19th century. And you're going to find there's all kinds of questions that these raise. And hey, look, an old medieval crane. At least that's what they tell us. What do you think about that one there? Old world hamster wheel cranes. You know, one of your cranes right there. Ah, yes. Yep. Those are some great pictures too, by the way. So, yes, it's really hard to say what is actually going on here. You know, are they really constructing it? This is supposedly from circa 1850, but you know how I feel about the dating on a lot of these photos. So, oh, look at that. You're right, M1. Not only do they always build the little miniatures, but they also have a little model of it. If any of you go back and watch one of the original explorations I did of Holy Hill, I mean, they call it a basilica, but let's be honest, it's a cathedral they built in Wisconsin. They had a little model that they'd built that looked exactly like it. They just happened to be there. Now, of course, you'll say, oh, yeah, Kevin's onto it. So, Edmonton. Ah, yes, 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 yes. Good call out there. It does not have the counterweight. So, let me go back onto that one. Very strange. And really, this whole image is really strange. And I think you might be onto something with that as well. And it's something we see a lot of with a lot of these photos too is, you know, are these real photos? Are these drawings? Are these some combination? Is it a little model and then they drew on top of it? Because when you look closer at these images, there's all kinds of problems. Hey, Numerical Lion, welcome. Thanks for joining us. Laura Painter, yeah, maybe it's a deconstruction photo. Yeah, exactly. And I think that's what's lost on a lot of people. They think there's a time frame where we couldn't actually fake it. Well, maybe they didn't even need to do that. Well, I would like to think that a crane mechanic knows exactly how a crane operates and don't need a counterweight, right? uh, I don't know, Scott. Anything's possible. Nope, no smoke, none of the usual signs that we see in this construction photo, but this is supposed to be what it looked like in the 1850s. And there's a lot of people that try to justify the construction of the amazing cathedrals across the United States because all these Germans immigrated over from Germany and they had experience working on these cathedrals. Of course, strangely enough, nobody built a Cologne like cathedral anywhere in the United States. They did build amazing cathedrals, but not quite like this. So another interior photo, and this is an older one, and here you can see some of the pillars a little bit better with some of the big stones on it. And look way back here. This is kind of interesting when you see just all these arches. I think what really stands out the most about this one, though, is the size of it and then some of the detail on the interior construction with the pillars or the columns, or it looks like it's a combination of columns making pillars. Yeah, that's a very good theory as well. And I think that also applies to video too, F in the chat, without a doubt. I mean, it's not just photographs, it's also video. But, you know, they didn't want us to know what kind of capabilities that they had because when people aren't aware of your capabilities to manipulate, it's a lot easier to manipulate. Well, thanks, Alice. I really appreciate that. I'd love to get back down there to Brazil. It's been a hot minute since I've been in South America, but that was in my former life. Ah, yes, that's a very good point, too. Katie, welcome. Yeah. Yeah, I've got some great comments here, and I want to make sure I get them posted so everybody can see them because, you know, those are great points to highlight and make sure that we're sharing all this. So, you know, and that's a good one there, Beyond Thunderdome. And that's something I realized in the arch when I went into Union Station. If you go back and watch the exploration of Union Station in St. Louis, they had an arch that acted just like that. So, yeah, I'm with you on that one. I am Kairos. Absolutely. Models, pictures, and I think it was Howdy Mikowski that talked about that. So I think that's what landed me in a little bit of difficulty with one of the videos this week. Well, it's true. It's possible. I'm not saying it completely disproves it, but it just creates a lot of questions and we don't have easy answers. Oh, yes, you can still go to Cologne in Germany and see this beauty. So, yeah, and that's what I don't know. So, hey, that's hi Brazil. Oh, I see. Come on now. You must have been around to actually watch that video too. That was long ago. That was back in May for crying out loud. And I think that's where we got a lot of our arches and the concept and the focus for the arches. And it definitely seems to be a previous civilization construction technique. So, well, Joe, I think you're onto something there as well because they very much are magnetrons. And they probably fall into that technology. Now, how it's used and how the previous civilizations used it, I've got some videos coming up on that. So we'll see if those videos tick anybody off. I'm sure they will. Oh, yeah. And this one had a slew of organs. So, yeah, Dwayne, yeah, and I mean, even I saw it when I had older eyes, or the original eyes that I had, and even then I couldn't easily explain it. Now they say this took some bomb hits in World War II, although it's hard to actually find damage, and I sincerely doubt that anybody was going to admit to accidentally hitting a cathedral in a bombing run, but supposedly it held up pretty well. Well, thanks, SD. I appreciate that. So, and that's what they'll try to tell us too. All right, let's go to the next one. Yeah, nobody beats your San Francisco footage there, I am Kairos. There's a reason why I haven't tried to cover that city yet, but I'll be getting there. Now, this was supposedly a drawing, a rendering that they had that showed what it originally looked like. And of course, this doesn't prove anything, but what it does prove is what they want us to think or what we're supposed to think about the construction. So this is another one of those drawings that supports the official account. And that's one of the reasons why I always show them in there. Oh yeah, without a doubt. And you know what? When you actually check it out on the ground, you can verify the materials and everything else. Yep, pretty much. Now, this is looking straight up, and I really like this particular photo angle here because here's where you can get an idea of some of the detail and the multiple arches with this. So, and especially our favorite word, cymatic, with the window right up there, or the massive glass. And the other question I always had with this one, yeah, exactly. That's a good point. And I think that's a very, very good theory in terms of what the original purpose behind these structures were, is that these were some sort of power generators. Now, were these power in the way we think of power, or did these also service the individual? And we talk about individual health energy. Now, we might consider that spiritual energy, but consider that there's another aspect with the vibrational mechanics concerning the structure that allowed people to recharge their inner energy. So, yeah, it's been an interesting week on my end too, Jamie. So, we'll drive on. Nothing ever works perfectly, whatever platform you use. So, yeah, he did a couple good ones on churches. So I haven't really covered churches yet. I mean, I've talked about some of the theories with the energy behind them and how they could have been used, but I thought it was a good topic to bring all of you in on because, you all have different experiences and you've seen different things. So elaborate. Well, that's exactly it. Now, what's with all the fine carving? That's another question that's come up, and nobody. There's different theories about the fine carving and all the ornate detail on it, and what if that was really part of the aesthetic to it? So it wasn't just a vibrational aspect that these structures had; it was also the way that they affected you aesthetically when you went and you looked at them. Because you look at a structure like this, and you can't help but be awed by the beauty around it. And so, if it served a purpose of integrating the individual spirit for the people that went into these buildings, think about these buildings that actually re energized you. And if you think about it, that's where this whole concept, I mean, it does persist to this day, whether you go into a church, a mosque, a synagogue, or whatever type of religious building, there's always the aspect that every religion says you have to actually go into the religious building to keep the holy day holy, whatever that holy day is and however they define it. Yet many of the same things go through all of our different religions, which is why I think it's aspects from the older world that have survived to this day. And that's why I think there is a lot of truth in what we read. That's a good one. Yeah, and when you consider all those images that we have of the quote unquote medieval times, one, it's very difficult to imagine them building this building. And if you want to watch a really good depiction of how we're supposed to see the medieval times, watch the movie In the Name of the Rose with Sean Connery. It's a very interesting movie. And you think to yourself, so when this movie happened, they were supposedly building structures like this. Right. All right, so here's the quote unquote tomb of the Magi. At least this is what we're told. So, yes, of course, very beautiful in gold with many figures on it. Horse drawn lunch trucks. Yep, and these are all great comments. So, Animundo, beauty of geometry. And I think that's something that, we really see, and we see it in the larger structures when we go back to the earlier civilizations, which for some reason, there's certain words I found that if I say in certain videos, it seems to have an interesting effect. So just something I'm paying attention to. So now here's another view of the doorway, and then just getting close up at some of these figures here. Now, do these necessarily all look religious? Do we have the Virgin Mary and the Savior here? Possibly. Or is this depicting something else? And then we simply modified it as such. Hard to say. It's really intriguing when you look at some of the figures also on the arches too. But just no detail spared. Yeah, and I hate to say that, F in the chat, but you're right, especially if you have one of those unfortunate office jobs, or if you're a university professor and you don't have the pleasure of working in one of the older buildings on your university, but one of the newer buildings. Guess what? The history department, the university I worked in, it was in a modern brutalist building. So, yeah, one of those things that stands out. And they may well be, Oki. They may well be. The statues do look newer in a lot of cases, so. Gothic pharmaceutical revival style. Yeah, that might be a good one there. You always come up with something nice. Another picture of the interior. Again, I think what I showed was up here. And I'm not exactly sure what's going on up here, if this is sort of a balcony or what. It's been a while since I've been here, and I don't recall getting inside. I don't think for whatever reason I got inside, but it was so long ago when I was there. Star Trek The Next Generation was still airing with new episodes. That gives you an idea how long ago that was. So it was not recently that I was there, but I would love to get back to Germany. Oh, great comment right there. Yep. And you've happened upon it. And they admit they've been renovating these buildings, every state capital, every cathedral, everything you've seen, everything I've seen. I mean, every single one of these is constantly being renovated. And when we get to the last cathedral, you'll see exactly how hard that story really hits. So here's another one of those construction photos. Oh, and I pulled out this little statue for whatever reason, because this looks a lot like one of the statues that I saw in the Holy Hill Church in Wisconsin. It looked exactly like it. Almost the exact same detail too. Just something a little strange and almost lifelike about it. Well, it's funny you say that, Joe, because we're seeing a lack of imagination in many different segments of life, and it just seems to be increasing, whether it's entertainment, films, music. I haven't done the video I was going to do about the 80s, the Nexus decade, because I certainly want to talk about that lovely synthwave music, which is very strange to me. It's very strange to my perception. So, yep. And that's exactly it. And what are they doing? Are they changing out the ceiling? Are they lime washing it? Why do we always have these details on it? So, but just a reminder, since you're all arriving, please hit the like button. I appreciate the support. We'll go on to the next image. Oh, I think that's it for Cologne. So we'll go on to our next cathedral, Devo. Yeah, you can't get any more 80s than that, but you know what? At least Devo is honest 80s. Okay, give me 1 second now. We'll pull up our next series of images. So 1 second. Share screen. And there she blows. Okay, does anybody know which one this one is? Well, first of all, can you see it? Yeah. I hate to agree with you, Oki, on that one. Not that I hate to agree with you as a person, but just what you say, it does seem to be quite real. I've certainly witnessed it. And I hate to say it, I've actually witnessed it within myself. It felt like it was happening to me probably about 10, 15 years ago. So, all right. Does anybody know what this one is and where this one is, most importantly? Ooh la la la. Somebody knows. Yes, we're in London. And which cathedral would be in London that's quite famous? Does anybody know the name of it? Hey, you're stealing my thunder there, Elbow. Come on now. It does look like a state capital, doesn't it? Very good. It is St. Paul's. You are absolutely right. Hey, Cosmic Confusion. Yeah, that's true. And wait till you see the inside of this one. So, just the stats on this one. This is St. Paul's in London. Supposedly, this was built to replace a previous St. Paul's. We actually have a drawn image of it. Built from 1675 to 1710. So, British had their act together, according to the official historical account. It only took them 35 years to build this beauty. The dome is 278 feet high, 85 meters. It's for reference, it's about the size of the Iowa State Capitol, or I should say the Iowa State Capitol dome's about the same size, but not quite as tall overall. Two towers, and the tower heights are 221 feet, but very impressive structure, and it's always been a landmark in London. Yeah, isn't it? And you could be forgiven for confusing this one for a state capital because while it's a cathedral in London, it looks like a state capital. And you might remember the other cathedral of St. Paul that I looked at in St. Paul, Minnesota, which was a giant cathedral, which looks like it was supposed to have been the state capital, but the state capital in St. Paul, Minnesota is about 3-4 blocks away from that cathedral. So you see the name St. Paul come up a lot. And of course, we have the religious connotations for why that is. So, yeah, that's right. Don't forget the clock. But if anybody, I'll just date myself again here. The movie Life Force from the 80s, St. Paul's Cathedral is quite prominently featured in that film, as is Patrick Stewart in an early role. Although, trying to remember his name, Steve Railsback, the guy that played the U.S. Air Force officer, he looked very discombobulated through that entire film. But yes, for us Americans, that's where a lot of us saw St. Paul the first time until we saw those historical images of London. But, oh, yeah. Well, and it's funny how the large shitties always seem to be targeted. Hey, Tabor, good to see ya. Welcome. So let's get to the inside of this one. And this is where I think you really see the tremendous beauty of St. Paul's Cathedral is when you look inside of it. And of course, you've got more arches and you've got some very, very large square pillars in this one. But just some of the incredible decorative detail. I know I can't even say it's beautiful. It's exceptional, exquisite, especially when you just look at the railing up here. But then, of course, just the overall size of this. Yeah, probably. And shipped to the New World and had to design all the same ones when they got to Minnesota, right? And then every state capital across the Midwest. And let's not forget Connecticut either while we're at it. So, oh, yes, you're absolutely right, Patricia. And I need to get down and hit some areas in South America because there are some real beauties down there that don't make a lot of sense. Going to feature the Amazon River in the upcoming exploration on rivers. So, looking forward to that. Oh, and then yeah, there'll be an exploration on that as well. Oh, of course you're calling that out. You always see that sun, don't we? Yeah, somebody's observant for that. So, well, and that's the other thing that really stands out, and that's why I zoom in on the seating because it just doesn't seem like it really belongs in there. So, what's actually going on? Not sure. Now, the tower and the dome on this one is always what stands out. Let me move that. Okay, so now here you got more of our classic columns. They're sectionals. Little portal right here with some decoration around it. But on the other hand, I mean, yeah, this looks like your classic domed U.S. Capitol building. Now look at what we have up here. Ding, ding, ding. Yeah, that's also other words I can't say, Jamie, but yes. It's pretty close to it. But you know what? Again, it's been a minute since I've been there. So, if anybody's from the UK, let me know. I don't recall, to be honest with you. And I forgot to check if the dome was over the sun floor. I believe it's close to it. So, yeah, exactly. And a lot of times it is mistaken for a Capitol building if you just show it to somebody from the States without, if they haven't traveled or they haven't seen it. If you just show this part of it without zooming in, they'll think that they're looking either at the United States Capitol or one of the other state capitals. So, intriguing consideration on that one as well. Yeah, antenna, or also the cross that represents the fourth physical dimension. So not a cross that represents three dimensions, which is a traditional cross, but actually a cross that represents the fourth physical dimension. Okay, Dwayne. You know what? It does actually. Okay, thanks. Now I'm gonna have to watch that as soon as we're done because I'm gonna need a good laugh. It's been one of those weeks. So yeah, and they probably did too, Jamie. There's no doubt that they modified it because they said they've been continuously renovating this one as well because there's always a reason. And this one took hits from the Germans supposedly during the Blitz in World War II. So interesting that we have two cathedrals here from World War II that were confirmed to be hit by bombs from opposite sides. Oh, that's a good one. Yeah. Well, and they've mutilated a lot of buildings. Okay, maybe I shouldn't use that term. They've altered a lot of buildings in San Francisco, but yes, from an appearance perspective, to me, they've really destroyed a lot of them in San Francisco by how they've altered them. So, oh yeah, to get to those. So, no, not this particular one. Not this particular one. Do you know what? I'd prefer to be there in person and take a look at it. Look at it with some binoculars. So these are one of the original images of it. I believe this is from this is a painting from Wellington's funeral. Yeah, that's true, but we are conditioned not to look for it. So Lord Wellington. Oh, I found out something interesting, and wait till I get to it. It goes back to the Scotland video, the one I did on Edinburgh. So here's one of the towers, and here we have our favorite classic clock. We've got four eyes. Yeah, it probably is. I am Kairos. It probably is. But I always notice that detail where we have four eyes instead of the IV. Lots of columns right here. Very beautiful. And then just the top of this tower. Hey, this looks kind of familiar. It looks like some of the pine cones that you were showing me. What's our real story? Isn't it funny how things always seem to pop up? So, what's our real story was sending me some pictures of some different landmarks, cathedrals, basilicas, university, and I'm still doing the analysis on those from Canada. So, of course, the holy hand grenade and the holy pine cone, right? Looks like the Darth Vader top right up here. So, yep, Edmonton, thanks. You'll have to forgive me. I'm jumping around all the time. So, but I do intend to make a nice video out of those. Of course it is. And technology that we can't influence, but we have to use. So, make of it what you will. All right. Here's one of the wide shots of it. This is probably one of the more preferred shots because you can actually see the entire structure because, of course, they have it surrounded by the more modern buildings. London goes back and forth, though. It's kind of intriguing. Oh, look at here. Nice pediment right there, and then pediments over the windows. So it does have a lot of the architectural trappings, the details that we see in a lot of the state capitals across the United States and even the United States Capitol. I'm sure that's just another coincidence, right? I always like this image of it right here, and then you have this little tower And this is an interesting tower. This kind of stands out. You wouldn't expect something like this right here, especially this window. And that it is. So it's really hard to say exactly what's going on there. And then you can see some of the detail. But what I'd really like to do is get back on site and take a look at this, especially after seeing some of the US capitals, and then do some comparing and contrasting between the material, the reported ages. And then, of course, the other thing we don't know is how much they've been modified. That's always the trouble. But you got the statues on top of it, too. So a little interesting, detailed comparison there. Now, I love this picture of the interior. And, of course, here where you're supposed to have members of the chorus sit, I believe. And if I'm off, go ahead and correct me. It's all good. But here's where you have more of that detail and beauty in the ceiling that you'd expect to see with a cathedral. Now, we didn't quite see it as much with Cologne, but we see it a lot more here with St. Paul's. Oh, possibly. I mean, the construction timeline on this is still impressive. I mean, building a building like this in 35 years at that time frame. Yeah, exactly. But who knows? Who knows? We're going off of what the given account is, but then when you start to shoot holes in that, it's not particularly difficult to do. Hey, look, I rather like that symbol. I might have to use that. Oh, that's a good question right there, Tabor. That's an interesting question, and that's something I'm going to keep in mind about that going forward with the exploration. They may have been, but I wonder if they concealed some of the detail when they were repainting them. Yep. And ultimately, all these look more like mechanisms than buildings, especially when you pull back and look at them. So, I think this is one of those that has more of an effect on us as we look on the inside of it. So, oh boy. I know, I know. I'm trying to rein in some of my deeper sarcastic tendencies. Look, I was a teacher for over 15 years. Something had to go, okay? Yeah, and I'm with you on this one. What is really missing from this? You can still see some of the detail, and we'll recognize this little pillar detail. We see this in all the capitals that we've looked at in the United States, the state capitals. But then you see other more beautiful detail, such as with the arches and the ceiling. No, I'm with you on that one, Jamie. It's definitely a big generator of some kind. Imported aliens. Yeah. Well, Scott, that's just as good of explanation as another. Got to go watch Ancient Aliens again, right? And figure out the real answers. This is a little bit better of a picture of it. And here you can see some of the detail that they have up in the main dome. Looks like got a couple organs there. But then also when you look way back here, and you can see just how far back it goes. Yeah, and I think you're on with something on that one, OIC. But then even just the detail that they have for right here with what's supposed to be the choir section, although who knows what it was originally. And just incredible work. I mean, no detail spared in any of these. Yeah, no doubt. Well, I mean, now you even see why 35 years is pushing it. No problem. Because remember, as I joked in the railroad video, the further back you go, the faster they could do things. Yeah, exactly. And that's a great one, Peter. And that's something you see a lot of as well. Might have been. A little bit closer view there of the main altar. Just I think that's the main altar. And look at some of these columns. And the window. Hey, thanks, Doc. I appreciate that. Well, either later editions or they were slightly modified, because remember they're always telling us that they're modifying these things, and the last one we'll look at will have a firsthand example of that. So, but thanks for that, Doc. I appreciate that. Yep, and I think that's something that we look at. Iliad. Well, I would love to be in a world that does that. Hopefully, we can get there someday. So, and I'll tell you what, Adam, that's one of my favorite things to do whenever I go into a state capitol or a cathedral like this is look up into the dome. You know, I think that's one of the most inspiring things that you can do. And here we have another drawing or rendering of it. I wanted to get to this one because here you can kind of see some of the beauty in just how they lay out, you know, all the interior construction. Now, what I don't know is exactly what it's made out of. Is it concrete? Is it marble? How in the heck did they do this in the 1600s? You know, your guess is as good as mine if we're going to go off the official account, because I remember asking that question and just a lot of persistence. Yeah. Hey, Timothy, no worries. Welcome to come at any old time. Like I told Amster Wheel Cranes, I'm not going to send you to the back of the classroom. But then just looking at the windows up here, and you know, even on the painting, they have what looks to be the pillars, and what are they depicting in the painting? You know, it kind of reminds me. I hate to say it, but it reminds me of something that I saw with the Iowa State Capitol. And now I keep going back to that one, but similarities. In some ways, this is more beautiful, and in other ways, you can see similar construction techniques. Yeah, geopolymer would probably be one of the best theories, or probably the closest to it. So. Well, and I'll be doing an exploration of some of the cities there, because right now I'm just gonna go on and do what I originally planned to do. So, oh yeah, very very likely. And here you go. I just decided to do one up in the dome. So, boy, Doc, thanks again. You're just well. I think that goes back to why they were painting them. You know, so they were going back and they were painting them, like we have the reports of the stucco being used in the World's Fair. So with all the stucco on all the buildings, yeah, plaster of Paris, you're right. And I think that was part of what they were trying to convey. It was as though they were trying to show that there was something new about these. But if you think about that, that's a way you could make them look new without having to acknowledge their true age. Hey, Ryan, welcome. But that's my answer on that one, Doc. I think that's just something they were doing to try to cover it up. And this is how we try to hide the age, as if you make them all white by painting them or putting stucco on them. It's pretty easy. So, oh, that's awesome. I'll tell her I said hi. There's nothing like doing explorations. I think that'd be incredible to share it with a child and have those kind of fresh eyes. Yeah, this is another one I'd like to get to and see in person. Here we go with our favorite checkerboard floor, also in St. Paul's Cathedral. Now look over here at this. Now again, this reminds me of something else that I saw. Hey, guy on a spice, welcome. Yeah, facade over red brick. And you see that I am Kairos, and then you also see facade over what we're told are granite stones or sandstone or limestone. It's just you see so many different mixtures on it. And I really like this look at St. Paul's, because here's where you get a real appreciation for just the levels. You have, of course, the columns being brought up to the second level with all the detail on them. And you can actually see the tower, and it really gives you an appreciation for what's going on here. You know, our pine cone, and then all the way at the top with the holy hand grenade looking apparatus. Okay, that's funny. What can I say? Yeah, maybe they did. You get out your giant chess pieces. What was that? I think that was on the TV show The Prisoner, where they had the giant chess set. You ever watch that with Patrick McGoohan? Classic. Yep. And everything is really precise and well done. And then they even have this little rendering or drawing of what the interior of the dome looks like. So, Well, thanks again, Doc. What have you got here? Probably for the same reason that they modified them, or, you can find other statues that aren't featured that way. You can find them that are featured with different looks in terms of the different people that were in the lands. And, I mean, that I know it comes up a lot, and I have to be careful about how I say it because, yes, what you actually say online does matter if you're not aware of that. So, I think it's just trying to convey that message, and that's something that I alluded to in the orphan trains video when it's not, in fact, the reality, if that makes sense. I hope I answered your question there, Doc. But if not, if you want a better answer, just feel free to email me, and I think I can respond to you a little bit more directly without having to watch what I say. So, but yeah, absolutely. Hey, thank you, fact checking this story. I really appreciate that. I don't think I've encountered many people who aren't Monty Python fans, except for the professors of English that I knew at the university I taught at. For some reason, they just didn't like it, and I don't know why. Oh, goodness gracious. Okay, let's head on to the next one. So this was the original St. Paul's that they had to replace. So yeah, they have this story in the United Kingdom as well, where they're constantly replacing older buildings, and they of course build a new one right in the exact same location because why wouldn't you do that? Oh yeah. Well, that has its challenges as well. So yeah, I think you're on with that one too. It wore out. We needed a new one. We got to build a new one every year. uh All right. Okay, and then this is the one of the last ones I wanted to look at for St. Paul. So this is supposedly the tomb of Lord Horatio Nelson, Admiral Nelson, who won the Battle of Trafalgar. Now, somebody who said that they were from Edinburgh went off on me because apparently I said something disrespectful about Admiral Nelson, and I don't recall ever saying anything disrespectful about him. I was merely questioning the monument that they had there up on the hill over Edinburgh about Nelson's monument, and it's just interesting how I don't know. You always come across some people who say they have an issue with something, and like, okay, well, if it happened, it happened. Great. I'm not saying it didn't, but I'm questioning it. So what's wrong with that? But this is look at the floor down here with this kind of detail and just unbelievable mosaic with all those little pieces. And then here you have the columns around this. Yeah, that's what they say. And I remember that being a sticking point about something I used to argue with some of the other history professors on. And yeah, I'll say argue because I remember having those arguments back in the day about it. Yep, entropy race, and they are out in full force, especially in the month of September. Supposedly it did. They got a Seattle exploration coming up. I don't think it's too soon, but it's on the list. All right. Well, we'll go to the next one. So give me 1 second. Now, this one's interesting. The last one's the most interesting, I think, but all right. Share screen. Okay, can everybody see this one? Probably because they didn't need it, Doc. Probably because they just didn't need it. I think either they had other uses or they had other means for it. And I encountered the same thing in the Iowa State Capitol in my very first exploration. That place was not built to have large bathrooms in it. They added bathrooms in the closets like it was an afterthought. So obviously, whoever used that building, it's one of two explanations. They didn't have that need, or they had some other arrangements worked out. Don't worry. I'm not worrying about trying to please all the people. It's okay. I just find it interesting when some people take things wrong because to me, it's fascinating that here's somebody from Scotland claiming to be all put out by Admiral Nelson. Admiral Nelson wasn't exactly born in Scotland, unless I'm remembering my histories wrong, but oh, that's okay. It was just interesting. Well, and it could go both ways. I mean, think about this. If human beings were in a oh, wait a minute, what's this? Yeah, exactly. Well, it was the French and the Spanish show, but everybody doesn't like the United States, and then everybody always says that you speak with an American accent, so you can't pronounce anything right. Believe me, I've heard it all, and I heard it all when I was a teacher too. So, but I find it funny. I just kind of laugh at it. So, okay, can everybody see this image? Let me get back on topic here. Got me all talking about these other things. So, hey, Credible Bites, yeah, PC alien, that's right. Oh, wait till we look a little closer at this one. So, does anybody know which cathedral this is? It's actually technically not a cathedral, as I understand. It's a church, but as always, make of it what you are. And this is one that oftentimes escapes notice, especially outside of the nation that it's in. But does anybody know what this church is? Oh, good guess. St. Patrick's? Yeah, that's a good one there with Balboa Park in San Diego. I assume that's the Balboa Park you're referring to. I don't know of any other one. All right. So to answer your question, this is, let me see if I can pronounce this one properly. I can usually do German somewhat passable, but you let me know. Ulmer Münster. This is located in Ulm, and this is one of the, or I'm sorry, this currently is the tallest cathedral in the world. So another one of those stories. They broke ground on this in 1377, and then they didn't finish it until 1890. But currently, this cathedral that took them forever to build, a couple centuries, is the tallest. This is even taller than the one in Cologne that we looked at earlier. But the one we look at the end, when it's completed, so you know where we're going on that, will actually be taller than it. So, oh yeah. But there's some interesting images for this one, so I want to make sure you can see this. Ulm, Germany. Now, supposedly, this is from the 19th century, and this is before they completed the tower. So you look at how it looked after the tower's completed. So this is the early 20th century, supposedly. Hey, look at how real this looks. Yeah, doesn't that look real? Hey, T Fetch, it's okay. Yeah, that's probably true too. But there's all kinds of issues with this image for starters. But then they say that originally they had to complete the tower on it. Yeah, and maybe that's how they try to explain it too, right? Oh my goodness. No, I think they were too, Dwayne. There's a lot of evidence for that. That's exactly what they were able to do. But this is a really strange one in Ulm. And here's some of the other detail, and here you have what looks to be a mix of old school bricks and yet the same detailing that we saw earlier in the cathedral at Cologne. Oh, that's a good one. Cybertron Transformer Building. Yep. I really miss the animated Transformers, I'll admit. Never got into the Bay movies. Here's the interior, and here we have a little bit of a mix. So it looks like they put a little detail up in the ceiling. We've got the same checkerboard pattern on the floor, and then we've got some very tall columns in this one. So, yeah, it does, doesn't it, Kathy? And so maybe this one's a little bit more authentic. Yeah, that's true, SD, except for the World's Fairs that he apparently didn't get to. Did you climb this baby in 98, Larry? Or were you talking about something else? Maybe I missed one of the other comments. So, oh yeah, Ponce de Leon Hotel. That's a good one. Hey, Country Boy Archaeology, welcome. Yeah, this one does look a little more dirty, doesn't it, Kathy? But on the other hand, maybe it's a little bit more authentic. Well, because, roads are very challenging, Hawaii guy. Come on. Buildings are easy, but roads, oh, forget it. Yeah, this is one I definitely want to see in person and really look to do an on-site investigation on it. Michael, welcome. Thanks for joining us in Seattle. They may have. They may have. And then, of course, we see some of the same details, some of the same arches on this one. So, again, not calling this a cathedral. This is looking straight up at the ceiling here. And here you got a little bit more detail with this. So, yeah, where they went, they didn't need no roads because of the flooding. That may well be. Or maybe they just had a better mode of transportation that we really can't consider. It's hard to say. So, and then here's another image of what it looked like before they expanded the tower. Yeah, doesn't this look like a legitimate image? Almost looks like we got Legos going on here with the way this image is deteriorated. Oh, yeah. No, we see that one a lot too. uh, yeah, that's true. That's true. Well, we'll see what we actually get complete, won't we? Yeah, I'm with you on that one. Well, and who knows? Who knows exactly? And then here's what we have today on it. Doesn't quite convey the true size and immensity for what's supposed to just be a church, but exactly knows what was going on with the top here. Well, we won't talk about my free solo climbing. Hey, James. Yeah, I suppose. I suppose I could potentially find the time for that. It's just been one of those weeks. So, but yeah, if you already emailed me, I've got to get caught up on email. I've been traveling a little bit, had to deal with some issues with the horses. So, no worries. Galaga spaceship. Oh, I love that. Galaga architecture style. That's a good one. I'm going to have to retain that one. Good call there. How excellent. Used to be one of my favorite arcade games, too, Galaga. Yeah, I know. I'm a bit of a cornball. Oh, that's a good one. Yeah. Angkor Wat. Yeah, I've tried to breach into Southeast Asia a little bit, and for some reason those videos were, for whatever reason, they had the same issues with them that other videos. But I'm not going to give up on those. So it's just interesting how things perform. Setnag, good to hear from you. Thanks. I really appreciate that. And it may well be, Seminole. It may well be. And then here's another look at it, looking at it from the side. I always like these images here because this is where you get a real appreciation. And of course, they're renovating this one too because, well, why wouldn't they be? Yeah, absolutely. And so it's just like looking at any of the state capitals that we looked at in the United States. And that's a good one there. Question the answers. Yeah, I agree with you on that one. It does look like that. Yep, not just the innovative architect, but also the construction techniques, right? Oh, yeah. Well, I'm not in the impression that they raised the tower there, Stephen. I think they just want us to think that they did. But that's just my theory on it. Maybe that was why they did raise it. And maybe they did in some distant time in the past, a little bit more than just a short 130 years ago. Although I'm sure we'll have plenty of people that'll come up and tell us that their great grandfather worked on it personally, or that they walked in it and they know, or they're from there and they know that it's true or whatever, which is fine. I'm open to everything. All right, so that's it for Munster. We have one more to look at, and I do believe it is the Piece of Resistance. So give me 1 second here, and we'll get it up. Okay, share screen. And here it comes. And can you see it? Yeah, exactly. Yep. Number that comes up a lot. Okay, does anybody know what this one is? And this is quite an interesting one. Yeah, let me see if picture 2 is a little bit better on this one. It's not the best image I was hoping for. Let's go back to the first one. You can see it pretty well on that. Yeah, I'll be getting back to Chicago. I got some return explorations, and the Tribune Tower is on that list, Market Theory. I do need to get back to Chicago or Shilaga. It's not Shilaga. That's in Canada, right? Oh, good guess there, Annette. No, it's not in Japan. Does anybody know what this is? It has come up on one of my earlier videos, but you'd had to have been with the channel for quite some time to have seen this one. I'll give you a hint. This is in Europe, but it really doesn't matter where it is. It could be anywhere. Yeah, that's my feeling on it. I am Kairos. This definitely feels like it's something from a different reality. Oh, look at that. Somebody got it. Good guess, though. Bangladesh. That would have been my original guess. You were correct. It is in Spain. Yeah, in this image, it does look fake, doesn't it, Chassis? But we've got some other images of it we'll take a look at. So this is the Sagrada Familia, and this is a Roman Catholic minor basilica, but well, we're just calling it a cathedral. This is in Barcelona, Spain. And the story behind this one is the groundbreaking occurred on 19 March 1882, 141 years ago. And they are actively working on it. And it's going to be complete in 2026. At least that's what they tell us. So, what do you all think of this one? Yeah, Sagrada de Familia, Barcelona. See, I'm a little bit better with Spanish, but I know it's not that great. And this is an interesting one because what you have here is a combination of things that look authentic and things that do not look authentic on it. Oh, yeah. Most definitely. And here's the interior on this one. And here's where you have this mix of what looks to be authentic and what looks to be fake, as Chassis said so accurately. Yeah, I mean, and this is a really strange one, one they've been working on since the 19th century, and supposedly they've documented it. So in Spain, in Barcelona. Yeah, brick and stone Eiffel Tower, Larry. That's right. Yeah, and that would make more sense than anything I can think of. But this isn't exactly a structure you see a lot of across the world. But then they put this kind of signage on front of it. I mean, and now it looks like what they derogatorily refer to as the God Mall, in other areas. So yeah, there is something really creepy about it. And what's the real story behind it? What's my theory on this one? Well, I think this was once a legitimate structure, but it seems like they're trying to show us something with this, that yes, we could still potentially build something like this or renovate or operate in this manner. And when you look at some of the other images of this, it's like this is one of the original construction photos of it, but is it? What exactly is this going on here in the background? Is this legitimate? I'm not sure. Yeah, and you know what, Adam? That could be the best supposition or theory I've seen. So, oh, that's a good one there, A. Willis. Yeah, it does look like it's out of Planet of the Apes. But then you see other images that show this kind of ornate detail, and this is where you see some of this fine detail on this particular minor basilica. That's funny in it. But this looks pretty authentic. I mean, this is the part of it that I think looks authentic. But obviously, I don't know looking at an image and what we know about images. Yeah, Castle Grayskull. Yeah, and there is something really tacky about the whole story with it. That's why I think this is one of the most interesting ones. So you can just wish away logistics. I am Kairos. It's just like being able to move 11,500 miles of train track in 36 hours. You just got to plan it well, and everything will go off real easily. You can actually look at one of the, how shall I say, more mainstream YouTubers videos that they did on moving the track. It's pretty interesting, especially the comments. The things we could do before the government was involved. It's pretty funny, actually. Oh, yeah. Yeah, exactly. Those are good points across the board, everybody. So anyway, this is supposed to be a cutaway, and what's not shaded here is the original structure, and then what's shaded is what they're finishing building right now, supposedly. So yeah, I'm with you on this one, Chassis. This is definitely a one to see in person. That's right. We had mules, we had horses, and we had people who could work really hard, and diseases and starvation and other things didn't affect them. So yeah, that's true. Now, this is supposedly a picture of it, but I'm just going to go on record and say this looks a little suspect to me, especially when you see some of the lighting on this. Is this really it, or is this some sort of model? Oh, yeah. Well, M1, you always got to have your three doors. So here's another image from when they were allegedly constructing it. And again, this is strange. So they just constructed it, stopped, and people walked right up to it. Is this a construction site? What's really going on here? Drive your animals by it as they're constructing it. I don't know. Very, very bizarre. And even here, you can kind of see it with the difference in the stone. So, I'm not sure what to make of this one. So, yeah, that's right. Set and egg. Well, plenty to be provided at that time. And I don't mean to undercut mules or horses. They're amazing animals and they can do wonderful things, but they have limitations too, and you got to feed them and you got to provide them water. So, it's not like not using fossil fuel or plugging in your car, whatever you go with. You've solved that issue. Huh. Yeah, that's right. Here's another image here, and this just gives you an idea of how large it is. And here's where you see all this incredible detail with it. That's right. No safety and no weather effects either. Absolutely. I think there's a lot of truth in that, Seminole. It's a good quote. Very, very true, all of you. Good one. Now, this is more of the authentic portion of it, I think. And this is where you can see the original. And then these towers up top, obviously, are what they're finishing. Yeah, it looks exactly alike, doesn't it? And look, they're white again. What are the odds? I mean, you look at it down here, and then you compare and contrast with what you see. Very strange building, very strange explanation behind it. Tools, mules, and jewels. It's all you needed. Yeah, it does actually. And it does look melted. Yeah, that's what they say, Aaron. You're right. Well, maybe. I have no idea, old world hamster wheel cranes. I suspect in reality they had something better. I think what you have here, Chassis, is that this was a survivor from the previous civilization, and now they're just trying to work some trickeration on it by bringing out the sky cranes on it. But yeah, it's a great point. Oh, and this image is really comical here, where they compare and contrast what was originally built as opposed to what was newly built. Now, is that really the case, or did they just put something, a little version of stucco, because you actually see the same fading here as you do over here, and just tried to make it appear new? I don't know. I'm not there and I haven't examined it in person, and that's the only way I'd feel safe coming to any sort of conclusions, but the image tries to show this. Yeah, very likely. Everybody was involved in a lot of wars. And it's funny you bring that up. Oh, I see. One of the biggest points of contention that came up was the fact that there was a group of Irish after the United States Civil War that invaded Canada. Now they downplay it. They don't even talk about it in the United States a lot of times. And they called them the Fenian raids. And supposedly these raids were to put pressure on the United Kingdom to release Ireland, allegedly. And it had all these Civil War veterans from the United States, because I guess they didn't have enough fun fighting all across these wars for 4 years, a war that killed 500,000 Americans. They had to keep at it. So it's really strange. And it's just something you don't see a lot of in the United States history, or at least the official history. So, yeah, no doubt. This is another one of the interior of this. So, very, very strange. Very strange. And you almost get some of the complexities of what may be newer or what may not be. It's as though they're just trying to confuse us with this. So, oh, thanks. I appreciate that. And then looking up at the ceiling, and very intriguing here, what's new, what's original, what's modified. So, how do you look up the train tracks being moved? If you're talking about the YouTube, just look about the time they changed the gauge in the South, or changing the rail gauge in the United States, 1886. That should get you enough to get you that account. And it's a very interesting account. You can find the video on YouTube. I think it's a history guy that does it. And then there's also an account on a couple different articles. But good luck finding any pictures of it. Because it happened so quickly. Yeah, maybe that's the best explanation right there. You could do anything in 1886. Here's another weird one, because here you see another mixture. Like, this might be more modern, but what exactly is going on up here? I'm not sure. Maybe I shouldn't even use that term, modern. I mean, this one almost feels like it's deliberate to be confusing. And that's why this is something I'd have to go see in person. Is this a legitimate structure or what? Well, that's all good, Dwayne. We all learn something new every day. Oh yeah, there's no doubt about it that they were setting egg. There's no doubt about it. I mean, how else do you explain the rapid growth? Even if we accept the years given as they are, it's really interesting. So, yeah, doesn't it always? But you have to consider what they say they were doing. So, at that time. uh, no, I don't know. I think this was just something they were stuck with. Now they're trying to make do with it the best they can, and they're trying to use it as an example. And of course, we have our patented model. Of course, it's another situation where does the model really replicate what they're trying to build? I'm not sure. So, in any event, that completes the images and the explorations of cathedrals. And I hope you enjoyed the exploration of cathedrals. We're going to keep looking at them a little bit. So, oh, that's a good one, Aaron. Just invented stuff on the fly. Well, why can't we have people doing that all the time with all this stuff, right? Honestly, don't know, Songbird. I honestly don't know. The thing about it, and I think it was, I've had a couple conversations with a couple different collaborators on this. It seems like they can't replicate it exactly. They can come close, but you can tell when you can actually go in person and verify the materials. And I'm more with Atom Bomb. I'm not really buying it either. So I think it's something that they're working on to try to confuse us, because you might have seen a lot of effort that they're just working to confuse us. So yeah, corn cobby. Some people call it a termite hill. Different statements for it. Oh yeah, that's a good one. And that's something I've noticed too. The older bricks are better. The older construction blocks are better. And when I say better, they seem more durable. They seem to last longer. So yeah, exactly. Awesome. Well, I really appreciate that. I hope she's enjoyed the show. Yeah, and that could be. And that's something we're going to explore going ahead. The good old T-car bricks. Yeah. Yep. That's an interesting story too. Well, and there's one video I did. I did an exploration on a small town in Minnesota, and I just had it posted for the members. But what I found out there with looking at some of the bricks, they had this old Paramount Theater, and they had replaced the bricks on the front of it, but on the sides, they had the original bricks. And you could tell that the bricks on the front of it were just pathetic imitations compared to what was on the sides. So, oh, yeah. And don't worry, I got a couple explorations coming up on universities. So, all right, everyone. Well, I'm about out of time. Gotta go moving and taking care of some horses. So, I hope everybody enjoyed this live stream exploration. And we got about 2 weeks. I'm going to coordinate with Old World Exploration, and we're looking to tackle a joint exploration of Winnipeg and looking at the Bronx. So, that'll be on the 30th, and we look forward to seeing you there. I'm looking to upgrade the output a little bit, since it seems like it doesn't really matter when, where, and how I publish. So, looking to have a full publication schedule these coming 2 weeks. So, well, I appreciate that, everybody, and I hope you enjoyed, and I hope you enjoy the rest of your weekend, or whatever day it is, wherever you are in the land. And feel free to drop by and say hi. Have a wonderful evening or day, or wherever you are.